is love? Is it this grand salvation, the thing we're all searching for? Or maybe could it sometimes be more like a beautiful, even a glorious catastrophe?
That's a fascinating question to start with.
It really sets the stage for today. We're diving deep into Coco Mellors' debut novel, Cleopatra and Frankenstein. It's very much a modern love story that tackles exactly that.
It really does.
And at the center, we've got Cleo. She's this young, impulsive British artist, full of fire. And then there's Frank. He's successful, yeah, but also kind of directionless, an advertising exec.
Quite the pair.
Absolutely. Their whirlwind marriage, right in the middle of chaotic New York City, isn't just about them. It's like dropping a stone in a pond that sets off this chain reaction affecting everyone around them.
The ripples spread outward.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack the complex journey of this, well, unconventional couple. We'll explore themes like passion, art, ambition, identity,
Yeah.
desire, sacrifice, all the big stuff. We want to look at how their relationship echoes through their own lives, but also the lives of their friends, their family. What insights, what surprising things can you gain about the raw, messy human side of relationships today?
And I think what's compelling right from the start is how Mellors just throws you into this really volatile mix of passion, art, ambition. It's not just a simple romance.
Yeah, not at all.
It's a story that really makes you think, makes you reflect deeply on what actually binds people together, and maybe more importantly, what happens when those bonds get stretched right to their breaking point.
Okay, so that volatile blend you mentioned, where does it kick off for Cleo and Frank?
Yeah.
How do these two, well, almost opposite forces first collide?
It's pure New York energy, really. A lively, chaotic New Year's Eve party. You know the type.
I can picture it.
It's a chance meeting, completely random, but it instantly sparks this unconventional, almost unlikely romance between two very, very different people.
And they are different. Cleo, she's young, British artist, kind of searching for inspiration, maybe some direction in this huge city.
Still finding her way.
Right. And Frank, he's older, successful ad exec. Life seems much more, grounded, established.
On the surface, anyway.
Yeah, good point. But despite these huge differences, there's this immediate magnetic pull. You feel it straight away. Cleo seems drawn to Frank's stability, that sense of security he offers.
Something she maybe lacks.
Exactly. And Frank, he's just captivated by Cleo, her creativity, her spontaneity. She brings this sense of wonder into his, well, maybe slightly predictable life.
Shakes things up for him.
Totally. And that initial enchantment, it's strong. Lots of laughter, deep talks, exploring the city together. Their bond feels like this instant sanctuary for both of them.
But what's fascinating, I think, is how quickly that intense connection forms. It sets a foundation, sure, but even then, in those early days, you can see the subtle hints of potential friction.
Already.
Yeah, little things stemming from their, fundamentally different personalities and what they want out of life, even when things seem perfect.
Those subtle signs, that's often where the real story starts digging in, isn't it? When that initial, honeymoon glow starts to fade. What were the first big personal struggles that really put Cleo and Frank to the test, individually and, as a couple?
Well, they're both dealing with quite a lot internally, and inevitably, that spills into their shared life. Cleopatra, she's in her mid-20s, and she's got this deep restlessness, this uncertainty about her art, her purpose.
That classic artist struggle.
Exactly. And it often means she's financially and sometimes emotionally dependent on Frank, which becomes a real source of tension.
I can imagine. And Frank.
Frank's older, late 40s. He's managing his company, which is hugely demanding. But he's also wrestling with things from his past, sort of echoes of trouble, and this really complex emotional landscape he tends to keep, well, buried.
Right. And these individual pressures, they must really start to affect their dynamic together.
Oh, completely. Cleo's art career is up and down, which fuels that dependency you mentioned. She wants her own success, struggles to find it, and that strains things.
And Frank's job.
Frank's career is like a pressure cooker, always on. It demands so much from him, there's often very little energy left for actually nurturing the relationship.
So you see that play out.
Yeah, in heated arguments, but also those cold silences,
Yeah.
Cleo's impulsive, needs spontaneity. Frank's methodical, values stability. It's a constant clash.
A real push and pull.
And you see them grow emotionally at times, but then also slide back into old patterns. Frank battling his past demons, Cleo facing up to the tougher realities of adulthood, of herself.
If we step back a bit, it really brings up a big question, doesn't it? When two people have such different identities, different dreams, can love alone really bridge that gap, especially with all the pressures of living together, jobs, life?
That's the core question, really. As they try to navigate sharing a space, sharing responsibilities, Cleo chafes against what feels like conventional life, while Frank just struggles to really get why her creative freedom is so fundamentally important to her.
But it's not just struggles, right? There are sacrifices too.
Definitely. Cleo often puts her own art on hold to be there for Frank when his work gets crazy. She becomes his emotional anchor, in a way.
And Frank, does he meet her halfway?
He tries. He makes real efforts, going to her gallery shows, trying to engage with her artistic friends and her world, even though it's clearly alien territory for him sometimes.
So there's effort on both sides.
Yes, but you also sense those moments where they both wonder, is this love worth giving up parts of their personal dreams for? It's a constant negotiation.
So moving beyond just them, their relationship creates these ripples you mentioned. It doesn't just stay within their apartment walls.
Absolutely not. It acts like a catalyst, really. Their connection sends waves out, impacting friends, family, even people they just casually know. It changes things.
Can you give us some specific examples of that? How does their dynamic actually change the people around them?
Sure. Think about Cleo's best friend, Zoe. She's an artist too, quite free-spirited. Yeah. But seeing Frank, his sort of grounded, practical side, influences her. Zoe starts rethinking her own priorities. She actually begins channeling her creativity into more structured projects, which leads to these unexpected professional doors opening up for her, things she might not have considered before.
Interesting. What about someone from Frank's world, like his business partner?
Right, Alexander. Initially, he's pretty skeptical about Cleo. Sees her as maybe unpredictable, a potential distraction for Frank.
Okay.
But then, through shared moments like there's this dinner party scene where Cleo passionately argues for her artistic vision, Alexander starts to see her depth. He sees the positive effect she actually has on Frank.
So it changes his view.
Yeah, it makes him question his own rigid ways a bit. Makes him more adaptable, surprisingly.
That's a great example of Cleo broadening Frank's world. What about Frank's family, his sister Mary?
Mary, yeah. At first, she feels a bit pushed aside, maybe neglected, even envious of Cleo's role in Frank's life.
Understandable, perhaps.
But as she witnesses Cleo's genuine love and care for Frank, it helps Mary confront her own insecurities. It actually prompts her to start her own journey of self-discovery.
Wow. And Cleo's artist friends, how do they react to Frank?
Initially, they definitely see Frank as an outsider, the suit.
Right, the corporate guy.
But Frank makes a real effort. He shows genuine interest, tries to understand their world, and eventually that earns their respect. His presence, weirdly, becomes this kind of stabilizing force, bridging their creative energy with a bit of practicality. It actually helps foster a more cohesive community for Cleo.
It's really interesting how Cleo's passion, her authenticity, seems to inspire people, while Frank's stability offers this necessary grounding. It really shows how love can be this transformative agent, not just for the couple, but for everyone they touch, like a symbol of balance almost.
Exactly. It's that interplay.
So every significant relationship has those moments, right? Those turning points that really change the game, reshape the whole bond. What were some of those key moments for Cleopatra and Frank?
There are definitely several pivotal moments, yeah.
Yeah.
Moments that force them to kind of peel back the layers. One big one is when Cleo confides a really deep secret to Frank. Something about her past, her vulnerabilities.
Okay.
That act of vulnerability, it cements their emotional connection on a new level. It shows Frank her inner turmoil, but also her resilience. And it really shifts how he sees her, how he approaches their relationship.
You can almost feel that shift happen in the book. What else?
Well, there's a period where Frank's career gets incredibly tumultuous. He gets overwhelmed, withdraws emotionally.
Pulls away.
Right.
Yeah.
And that naturally leads to arguments. It starkly highlights how differently they cope with stress, their different communication styles. It exposes these significant gaps in understanding they hadn't really faced head on before.
But it's not all conflict, right? Mellors throws in these moments of clarity.
Yes, absolutely. There's this spontaneous trip they take out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And away from all the pressure, they have this kind of epiphany.
What do they realize?
They both sort of see that their individual happiness can't just hinge entirely on the other person. They need their own sources of fulfillment.
Ah, that's crucial.
It leads to these really raw, heartfelt conversations about nurturing themselves, their own interests. It allows them to see each other more clearly as individuals within the partnership.
And then there's the past rearing its head again.
Right. An unexpected visitor from Cleo's past shows up, and it dredges up all this unresolved stuff for her, forces her into some intense self-reflection.
And how does Frank handle that?
It forces him to really evaluate his role, how supportive he can be or should be, and it exposes his own insecurities in the process, too.
It sounds like a pressure cooker.
It is.
Yeah.
And finally, there's a health scare Frank faces.
Yeah.
That really brings the fragility of life right into focus.
It strips everything else away.
Totally. All the pretenses vanish. It lays bare their true feelings, their priorities. And in facing that potential loss, they discover this unexpected, unwavering strength in their bond. It actually renews their commitment, but in a much deeper, more profound way.
Looking at the bigger picture then, these milestones, even though they're full of emotional turmoil, they really act as crucibles, don't they? Forcing them to face fears, insecurities.
Exactly. Things that were maybe just simmering beneath the surface, they ultimately deepen their intimacy and really define how they evolve, not just as a couple, but as two separate people.
So after going through all of that, all the upheaval, the growth,
Yeah.
what are the lasting lessons Cleo and Frank take away? And what's the sort of enduring impact of their story?
Well, the whole journey definitely fosters a much deeper understanding of themselves, their own resilience, their empathy. Cleo, for example, really learns the value of self-acceptance, of being authentic to her art.
How does that play out?
It leads her to pursue her art career with a new kind of conviction, free from some of those earlier constraints and dependencies. She finds her own footing.
And Frank, what does he learn?
Frank gains this really profound insight into compromise, into mutual respect. His career becomes more balanced, less all-consuming. He develops a much deeper appreciation for personal connections, not just professional wins.
But ultimately, their paths diverge.
They do. And what's striking is how their separation is handled. It's marked by this mutual respect. There's an acknowledgement that their time together was incredibly valuable, transformative even.
Yeah.
But it was meant to be a chapter, leading them into new phases of their lives, separately. And the lessons they learned together, they continue to shape their choices, their dreams, long after they part ways.
It feels like the book powerfully shows that paradox, individuality within a relationship. That real love doesn't mean losing yourself.
Exactly. It suggests true love might actually be about finding strength and growth through mutual support, through understanding each other, even if that understanding leads you apart.
So love's power lies in fostering growth.
Yes, in fostering growth, sparking self-reflection, encouraging us to keep evolving. Their story really distills these key themes, the sheer complexity of modern romance, the tough challenges of personal growth, and just how profoundly one person can influence another. Balancing those contrasts, leading to self-discovery.
From that impulsive electric spark in New York, all the way to this deep personal transformation. Cleo and Frank's story, it really highlights some universal truths about human connection, doesn't it?
I think so. The enduring legacy of their story is really a testament to just how complex, how messy sometimes, but also how profoundly beautiful human connection can be. It teaches us, I think, that enduring love is as much about having the courage to let go, to embrace change, as it is about holding on tightly to each other.
So a final thought for everyone listening. As you reflect on Cleo and Frank's intense journey, maybe consider this. What beautiful catastrophes in your own life, those messy, difficult times, have actually led to your most profound growth, your deepest understanding? And how have they shaped the person you are today?